Hello, beautiful humans. Welcome to day 3 of the Power of Love Summit, transforming self and society through love and compassion. My name is Brittany Tackett. I am a transpersonal coach and therapist, yoga and meditation teacher, and founder of Heart First Education, whose mission is to educate the whole person, heart first. So I started this organization after I worked as a mental health therapist in the public schools, and I really started to see how our education system isn't very balanced, right? We focus so much on the intellect and the mind and very little on matters of the heart, like emotional intelligence and virtue development and just overall well-being. And so that's how Heart First Education was born. And the vision of Heart First is a world where hearts are educated as much as minds. And so that's sort of the purpose of the summit, right? Is to bring together heart-centered teachers and leaders, healers, coaches, people from all different parts of the world who are heart-centered and are helping others to anchor more into their hearts as well. So today I have Crystal Kia Paul here with us to talk about the high heart chakra. I'm so excited. Aloha, Crystal. Please introduce.
Aloha, Brittany.
So happy.
Aloha, everyone out there in Zoom and Facebook landia. I am so happy to be here as well. So I'm just jump right in really quickly here and let's knock this out of the ballpark. So let me just start with this. Full moon just kicked in a few minutes ago. So that's all about releasing, letting go, and I'm going to keep it as simple as possible. That's why I picked the topic of K.I.S.S, the full moon, and your high heart chakra. So, we've all heard the acronym K.I.S.S, right? Keep it simple, whatever other S's. But my buzzword for this year is savor. So my whole principle on today's discussion is keep it simple, sweet, and savory. Life is to be savored and enjoyed and flavored and tasted and tested and with smells and looking and ears. I mean, that's why I have a beautiful background on this Zoom as opposed to just my office, because I share an office. And so we kind of keep it very mellow. So I wanted something a little exciting for our viewers today and those watching and listening. So as I said, full moon is about releasing, surrendering, letting go. And we all have trash, right? So and whether we want to admit it or not. So we just have to let it go. Let the, what no longer serves you. Yesterday, I was at the hairdresser with my mother and I was telling the girls, I said, someday I'll let you guys trim my hair. I says, but it has to be on a full moon. And they said, why? I said, because you want your hair to get trimmed on a full moon so that way it grows longer. And they're like, I've heard that maybe like from my granny. And I'm like, yeah, see, those old white women knew stuff. So, and we're the new women that are going to be those old women in a few years. So we have to share all that information. So full moon, release, let go, clean it out, declutter inside, within yourself, within your home, especially your bathroom. People are like, what about the bathroom? Your bathroom is where it holds all your emotions, as far as the clutter. And think about how organized or disorganized your bathroom is. And that kind of will tell you where your emotions are. My husband never knows what color the bathroom's going to be because he's an over-the-road trucker. And when I'm having an emotional breakdown, I paint. So the bathroom will be a different color. It's been everything from lime green, bright yellow, white, you name it. It just, whatever my mood was that day. And it was like, ooh, okay, it's got to go to green. So, and so now to get to the good stuff about the high heart chakra. Bob Marley described it. We're supposed to be living in a world of one love, of understanding, of oneness, of connection. The movie Avatar described our society as it was in ancient times before what we call Western society hit the road running and hard and with their more patriarchal destruction and craziness and madness. And, as my husband says, yep, the rape and pillage of the village. Well, it's not just the village, it's the body, mind, and the soul. And so a lot of us that are indigenous, and and that goes for everybody of color. There's no whether your skin color is white or your skin color is black, everybody has indigenous ancestry. So if we go back, and that's what I teach my clients, go back, look at what your ancestors did, look at your history, and you'll find that the answers are there. You just have to open your heart, your mind, and look. It's not necessarily just going to be on the surface or just a Google look. You're going to have to get out there and talk to people and visit with your family. It might hurt a little bit, because there's family drama, but figure it out, because culturally, the ancestors knew what they were doing. My husband's, his ancestry's from the, English across the pond, but he grew up in Hillbillyville, Kentucky, and he's a proud hillbilly. And so
that's where I'm from.
And so, yeah. And so, but they have such wisdom and knowledge, and people just take that stuff for granted, and a lot of times we're always, not a lot of times, but many times we're searching outside of ourselves for answers. There's so many people that come to Hawaii to get what we have, but y'all have it too. You don't have to go to Hawaii and indoctrinate into a Hawaiian teaching program to learn that, to trust your gut. We call it the na'au. It's your inner guidance system. Mothers have it with that sixth sense, that thing that gets us in trouble when we're kids. Kids are the ones that really know how to manifest. Around Christmas time, there was a post on one of my women's business pages about manifesting. How do you teach your children to manifest? Well, I don't have human children. I have fur babies. And my brother has 5 children. And I said, my nieces and nephews, they have it wired. They just write out their Christmas list. My brother goes shopping. That's manifestation.
Yeah.
It is, and it's simple, but we keep thinking, oh, we're going to make it hard, but it's a lot easier than most people understand. We hear what we think, what we see, those actions. Well, we're taught in Hawaii that our words matter, that, what we say, what we do, what our intention is, it matters, and it's indoctrinated in us, because in ancient times, we had ancestors that could pray a person to death, so what you say and how you speak, it's powerful. So, like I said, Bob Marley, one love, connection, having the relationship with people. I read a story the other day on Facebook about a gentleman that used to get beat by his mom. And one day he was watching Mr. Rogers on the TV. And at the end of the TV, Mr. Rogers told him, "I like you the way you are." And so now he's a counselor. And so when he's working with the children, he looks them straight in the eye and he tells them, "I like you the way you are." And I thought, how fitting that as humans, we forget to pay the compliments. I'm constantly, if I see a great pair of shoes on somebody, "Hey, where'd you get those shoes? Those are hot. I like those." Or if they look pretty, and even if they don't, but you can tell they're having a crap ass day, a little white lie is not bad. But if you can just say something positive, "Hey, how's it going? Having a good day?" "Oh, no, it's bad." "Hey, it's going to get better. You're on your way home, have a great day, whatever, just those little words of encouragement really, really help. Right. And so what does all of this have to do as far as me? I promise I get back in the circle here with the high heart chakra. Well, the high heart chakra is your thymus. And, it supposedly stops working after we get into our middle school age, teenage years, that kind of thing. But there's every organ in our body has a purpose, even the appendix, they like yanking it out. They still haven't figured out what it's for. Ancient times, they say it was, to help us eat fish, but I eat fish just fine, so. But the thing of it is the thymus is the high heart chakra, and it works between the heart and the throat. And what it does, it helps us develop better communication skills, helps us understand our empath abilities, because a lot of times our empath and our compassion gets taken as being stupid. You know how that saying, don't confuse my kindness for stupidity. But a lot of times our kindness takes advantage of. But that thymus, that high heart chakras, really helps us develop whether and gives us discernment on whether or not we should help someone or enable someone. So, and a lot of times, we want to help people because that's who we are. It's our job to be kind and to be helpful and to give away our time, our trouble, our money, whatever. But a lot of times we don't need to do that. We just have to pay attention, tune into ourselves, and find out, okay, am I really helping this person or am I enabling them? And the reason you need to discern that, because if you continue to help a person that doesn't need help because you're enabling them, then when they have a big problem that they cannot solve on their own, they're gonna fall super hard, and it's gonna be your fault. And they're gonna blame you for it. And it's not your fault. It's because you've overextended yourself and you've been too kind and too kind and too kind. And so it's about discernment, is when you're using your high heart chakra. We all want to be compassionate and understanding. We all want to give money to every charity, to every organization, to every whatever. But, sometimes we just have to let things go. We're not God, we're not source, we're not K.I.S.S, we're not the universe, so, as I tell most of my clients, we all have blinders, and it just depends where our blinders are at, right? So most people that haven't had their spiritual awakening or their connection have their blinders about here. Once they start once they start evolving, whether you're having a religious affiliation or not, because even with people that have a religious connection, they also still want the spirituality and the spiritual connection to whoever they boom shakalaka to, right? So whether it's God, Buddha, whoever it is, they still want that deep spiritual connection. And so when you have your discernment, then you can then you can go through life, feeling more confident, more compassionate, more understanding, and more empathic when you do that. And you don't have to feel bad if something doesn't go right for someone else, because that's not your job to fix it. It's their job to experience whatever it is, good, bad, different, or ugly, and so a lot of times we just want to fix it all and we can't, and that just doesn't make their life any better or easier, and it doesn't make yours any better or easier trying to fix things. So the high heart chakra, by opening it up and experiencing what it does to help you, changes your life. And it changed mine dramatically. My Reiki, because I'm also a Reiki master teacher, it changed significantly, because prior to that, I was spiritually connected. But after, getting in that high heart chakra and finding out there was even a high heart chakra, as I was telling Brittany before we got started, I didn't even have a clue that there was more than 7. There's like 20 something chakras out there. But the high heart one is considered number 4.5, 4.5, whichever way you want to look at it, because it's right between your heart chakra and your throat, and it's your thymus. But I was like, crud, I got to learn another chakra. I just got the 7 down, and I'm always forgetting the sacral. Do not ask me why. When people say, oh yeah, and I'm like, oh yeah, your root, your solar. Oh wait, crap, there's the orange one. What's the orange one, But yeah, so the high heart chakra is all about discernment, and not expectations, because expectations provide disappointment. Acceptance, it's accepting things as they come, and knowing that you're walking your path the way you're supposed to be, then it makes life much easier. You know, when I was preparing last night and just going over my notes and stuff, one of the songs that pops in my head, because I get a lot of communications from Kekua through, and Kekua is the Hawaiian words for God. And so when then that's how I get my downloads, is through music. So Tina Turner song pops in my head with "What's Love Got to Do with It?" And I'm sitting here cracking up going, wait a minute, that song's about heartbreak, you know? And I'm sitting here going, okay. So I had to look at the lyrics, so that way, whether or not the answer was going to, you know, be significant in today's conversation. So I'm sitting here going, what's love got to do with it? I'm like, okay. And as I'm thinking, and I was like, oh, snap, crackle, pop, that's an easy answer. It has everything to do with it. It does, you know, everything that we do, if we start with the heart center, then it makes life much easier, you know, and that connection to not only ourselves and other people, but the land, the ocean, the water, the trees, every living organism out there. We're all connected. In Hawaii, we have the Kumulipo. It is our genealogy from the beginning of time to present day. And in that genealogy, it talks about the deep darkness of space and the beginning of time and man and woman. And then it also talks all the way down to little organisms in the ocean, you know. So in Hawaii, we knew all this stuff. We kept it a secret. We kept it underground. There's a lot of people that are pro public about the information, and, you know, con public. No, let's not talk about it. But the thing of it is, we need this kind of information. But Hawaii is not the only one. There's other indigenous cultures out here that people just need to tap into their own indigenous. So then that way they're also practicing their own truths, not just sharing from other, you know, other indigenous people, you know, because the Druids, I mean, I've been on my spiritual path since I was 22. I left the Catholic Church at that time. And so I've studied many different indigenous studies, the Druids, the Celtics, fascinating stuff, you know. And once you understand that their relationship is similar, sure, they didn't speak the same language, they don't even speak Hawaiian, but the information is the same. Respect one another, respect the land, respect the trees, the ocean, the water, the everything, you know. And when we teach people, hey, look at a blade of grass and see just what it does. You know, granted, some people have allergies. Yeah, okay, sorry for you guys, you know, but for the rest of us that don't have allergies, and for those that do have allergies, just looking at that green, you know, it touches you, you know, some more than others, you know, but that's what it's about, is just having that connection, that deep connection to life. You know, what's the point in living if you're not using all of your senses? That back to my word of the, you know, of the year, savor. You got to savor with your eyes. You know, food, when you get food, you know, we look at it and go, not gonna eat that, or oh my God, that is so yummy, look at that. And then we get it with our smell. So by the time it gets in our tummy, we're already full, because we've already experienced it with our eyes and our nose and then our mouth and the taste. And it's like, oh, you know, it's orgasmic. That's what life is about, is having those orgasms with your eyes. When I was 19 years old, I got to sit next to Carlos Santana on the airplane. Yeah, the musician, the Santana. And it was one of the best experiences of my life. He was listening to James Coltrane, sorry, horns out there. And he started a conversation with me. And he asked me if I was from San Antonio, because I was flying from San Antonio to Dallas. I said, no, not really. I said, I'm half Hawaiian and half Hispanic. I said, my mom's side of the family lives here in Texas. And I said, my parents retired here in Texas, and my dad's side of the family's in Hawaii. And he says, I love Hawaii. He goes, every time I go there, he goes, my eyes have orgasms. 19 years old, I'm snickering. I mean, this is Carlos Santana. I'm supposed to be like, woo, and I was like, woo. But when he said orgasms, I'm like a little kid, because, that was 1981.
Yeah.
To give you guys some concept here, I'll be 60 in a few months, but orgasms, and I never thought of that until I started on my spiritual path for that deeper connection. Yes, I want my eyes to have orgasms. I want to see something that makes me go, wow. For some people, it's traveling to Hawaii, traveling to Paris, traveling to Ireland. Have those experiences so you can not only feel, but see. All of your emotions are just wrapped up super tight in that. And it's that vortex that Abraham Hicks and Esther talk about, the feeling. I'm getting goosebumps just talking about that feeling when your eyes and your whole body's like, for me, and my friends who are listening from Hawaii, they're going to crack up. But for me, because I live in North Texas, for those that don't know that about me, but that feeling for me is at the airport in Kona, because it doesn't have the runway strip where you get on the plane. In the airport, you have to go up the stairs. When I get off the airplane at nighttime, it has the onshore breeze, and you smell jet fuel, but you also smell the plumeria at the airport. Oh my God, there's nothing better. It's like, oh, and then I'm like, oh, I'm home, I'm home, I'm home. I'm a happy girl, but that feeling of, oh, just orgasmic, So I guess maybe my other word for the year should be orgasmic, but, but savor, And how I came up with the word savor this year, my niece was asking me something. I said, girl, one life, savor it, experience it, do what you can, go for it. Can't hurt till, try it. As long as you're not hurting anybody else or hurting yourself, try it, try just being a little friendly. Try, being out there and sharing, doing what you love. That's what it's about. So what does love got to do with it? Everything, everything. So the high heart chakra. Oh, I just found out this yesterday. We're in Leo full moon. Did you know that?
I did. Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
an astrology person, so I keep up with all that stuff. So Leo, I think of like the self and self-love and being out there, right? Putting yourself out there. So what a great time to bring in a little bit more love, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Because this is a great time to activate your heart chakra, your high heart chakra, your throat chakra, for that communication skills. There's so many times that we hold stuff in, and then it festers and festers. And you know what happens when things fester? Disease, not not disease run together, but dis-ease, discomfort, so stop it, so let go, throw it away, throw it in the rubbish can, and, start living, start enjoying, start in savoring, don't wait for, gotta wait for payday. Bullshit. Sorry. You don't gotta wait for payday. Go outside, look out the window, look at the magnificence. I still amazed at skyscrapers. It's like, oh my God, there was a crazy person that was out there on the 47th floor with the beam walking around. I mean, that's guts. I wouldn't do it. That's not my kind of cup of tea, because I'm afraid of heights. But wow, look at everything. Everyone has purpose. Everybody has a purpose to be here. Everyone has a reason to be here, and no matter how insignificant you think a job is or a person is, you need to check yourself. You need to look inside your heart and go, look, if I'm thinking that person's insignificant, who's thinking of that about me? That's not how you want to live life. I want to live life fully. I want it to savor. I want it to taste it. I want to touch it, you know? So your high heart chakra helps with communication. If you're uncertain, we don't like confrontation. Let's get real. That's why we have disease and discomfort because, oh man, I don't want to say nothing. There's always an easier. So practice what you want to say. You don't have to, say, well, you know what? I don't like that. You're an a-hole. You're a jerk. Hey, they may be all those things and you might have to call them out that way, but you can also say, hey, look, you don't have to be that way. If you do it this way, you'll catch more bees with the honey than with the vinegar, So if you're not sure how to communicate, there's great organizations out there that teach you how to speak, how to discuss things with people, and hire a coach, talk with your friends, take classes. I'm 60 years old and I'm sitting here racking my brain why I signed up for another coaching program, and I'm like, I've got all my full schedule, and from January to April, I'm submitting testimony to Hawaii State Legislature, and I'm sitting here going, what was I thinking? The brain. You stop using it, it starts dying. Granted, I had a few tequilas in my day, so the brain cells may not be there, but I still working with what I got left, So get out there and work with what you got, So some of the colors and some of the crystals you want to use, are going to be the same ones that you use for your heart and your throat chakra. For example, and know your stones, know what works for you. Just because somebody says, oh, Larimar is really good for the high heart chakra. I can't wear Larimar because I'm Lemurian. I am not Atlantean. And every time I try to wear Larimar, it breaks. I lose the stone. It's like opal. I can't wear opal either. I lose the stone, and I've liked opal. I thought, man, that's really cool. I was 16 years old when I bought my first opal ring, and I cried when the stone fell out. My dad's like, you're not responsible enough. It wasn't that. It's not my stone. It's not my thing, but there's a lot of great crystals, for those of you guys that do crystal work that works with a high heart chakra. Let me just pop over a couple really quickly here. This one's one of my favorite. It's an ocean blue obsidian, and I like skulls. And so this isn't my pu'uvai. Pu'uvai is heart. And so think of your stones that are going to be that combination of blue and green, turquoise, aventurine, emerald. Those are, those combination color stones are going to be the ones that you're going to resonate for your high heart chakra to work with that. In December, I went to go see Max the Crystal Skull. My girlfriend and I, in years past, we hosted Max here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And a friend of ours was hosting Max, so we went to see, and when I came out, this little dude was talking to me, and I'm sitting here going, I need another crystal, like I need a hole in my head. Hello, my name's Crystal, so I really don't need another crystal. And so I'm like, man, do I really want to spend money? Because I've got over 100 crystal skulls. And then I was like, okay, what kind of crystal is this one? And my friend says, oh yeah, it's the golden healer. It's great for master healers and that kind of thing. So I do a little bit more research. High heart chakra. I'm like, all right, thanks, Max. Thanks, little crystal. Obviously, my high heart chakra wasn't quite working where it was at. And part of the reason why is because I had a death in my family a few years ago and had quite a bit of challenges overcoming that because of circumstances revolving around that death. But I'm back to being the new me, the new improved me with taking time and reconnecting my high heart chakra. So that way, I can be more out there and helping people and, promoting positivity, One of the, hopefully my friend Sasha gets to catch the replay, but one of my favorite bands that really helped me from like 2009 is when I think or maybe 2008 when I first heard them. They're called The Green. They're Hawaii, they're a Hawaii-based reggae band. And I was listening to a Hawaii radio station on iHeart, and their song came on. And oh my gosh, I was so touched. And from then on, they've introduced me to some great reggae bands. And what do they promote? Love, connection, family, and I'm sitting here going, hope for the human race because of those boys, and because of them, there's other bands in Hawaii that I'm before then, there was a Hawaiian reggae movement, and the music was fun and it's great to dance to and that kind of thing. But I had lost my connection when I moved back to the Texas as far as love for self, love for things. I was, there was some animosity going on, but, listening to them and, how they talk about kids and family, I was like, yeah, I want my reconnection with that again.
I love that you brought up music, because with the high heart chakra, since it's connecting the heart and throat, I imagine that singing would probably be a beautiful way to help activate that.
Absolutely. And, oming, and I didn't realize until my teacher that I had that was helped me with my fifth dimensional awakening, who taught me about the high heart chakra. She asked, did you used to hum a lot? And I was like, oh yeah, when I was little, I thought I was going to be all that in a box of, hot rock and roll action going on, because I would make up songs and, but then, as parents, no, you have to be this way, act that way. You can't do this, can't do that, and that form us in a box. And so a lot of that I lost, but I find myself humming a lot and oming and, that kind of thing. Or even when I'm listening to music, I'll put my phone. I know you're not supposed to put your phone next to your head because of brain cells. Well, you know what? I'm 60. Whatever brain cells I have, But I like the vibration feel. Or if I'm in my car, it's on max, so that way I can, my husband, when we got this new vehicle, my husband says, great. My wife just turned into a 17-year-old. I was like, dude, but it's fun. It feels good, I mean, and God bless him. We've been married 31 years, full moon, I follow astrology, but I'm making him out there. Come on, dude, we're going to dance under the full moon. And he's like, I don't dance well. And I'm like, I don't care. Nobody's going to see us. It's nighttime. Come on. So we're out there dancing, but we're letting things go, and I tell him, I says, we write stuff down in red ink, because we were taught as, bad things, X, red ink, our parent, oh, you did that wrong, red ink. So I write everything in red ink of what I want to get rid of. We have a little fire going, and then I'm like, do my little prayer, throw it in the fire. Then I'm dancing because I'm letting everything go, and I feel good. It's off my shoulders. Yeah, sure, you might still have some of the issues and burdens, but are you going to reconnect at the same level? Heck no. You're going to let it go, So, but, so for parents that are watching, and how can you help your child with the high heart chakra? Listen to them, they're little sponges, so they learn stuff and they tell you stuff. Let them share with you what they know, what they hear. They're still so connected from the other side that they have great knowledge. Just, and one of the things that I loved about Princess Diana, because she worked with children, that she instilled with her children, she would get down at their level, not stand over them and talk with them, but she would sit down eye to them, so that way she could hear and communicate with what they were saying. So that way they understood that they are important. It doesn't matter if we're infant or 115 years old, we're all important. So making that eye connection when we talk to people and understanding, then that helps your child. And that way they know mommy or daddy's listening to me. They really love what I say or like or laugh when I talk to them about this. And you reassure them that no matter what happens in their life, you will always be there to listen to them, to help them, to encourage them. And your relationship with them will be really strong, and they will have such a solid foundation of who they are, what they're supposed to be doing in life, and go through this life full of love and confidence. Because a lot of people get, shoot their kids down without thinking. But when you encourage your child to talk with you, you're encourage their confidence of communication skills. And that's that high heart chakra.
Yeah. And would you have any tips for people who have maybe not done any chakra work, or maybe they have, but they're not familiar with the high heart chakra? What are some other ways that they can stimulate this, help open this heart chakra up?
There's several people that have YouTube videos online that, because I'm not that person that says, oh, you've got to go to this person to get it done, because that doesn't work for me all the time. I will go listen and it's like, not, So if it resonates for you, check out a few YouTube videos and see if that really helps and you feel better, because it's all about feeling. How you feel is so important, and especially you men. The other day I caught your show with the gentleman on, our poor men, they're taught, no emotions. That's not how life is. When the Cowboys win, men are like, woohoo, you woohoo all the time, not woohoo sometimes, all the time, be happy. So how do you get happy, right? So if you want to open up that chakra, there's several people. I'm one of many, but there's several people. And like I said, I'm not everybody's cup of tea, and I know that. But find somebody that resonates with you, you like their work, check their references, that kind of thing, to help stimulate it, and it's not difficult, you can do it. Just start oming, and you can feel it. When you're working with somebody else, it's just to help you to get you to the next level, because we're always going to the next step and the next step, just to, bump up our game, our spiritual connection, So take voice lessons. You wanted to sing, take voice lessons, join a choir, sing in the park. I don't care. The other day, I gave a ride to someone and they were stuck listening to disco, because that's what I was listening to at the moment. And then I flipped it over to some reggae, but I'm singing along. And I told them, I said, look, I am not the best singer, but you're just going to have to listen, just go for it. Just, because doing your voice and working it helps you work it yourself, So yeah, so there's multiple ways to do it. There's no such thing as wrong. There's no wrong way to do it, and there's no one person that knows how to do it all. I don't subscribe to that. So, just find somebody that you resonate with, maybe your best friend. Hey, let's do this. Let's try to, open this up, and, y'all own together. It doesn't have to be difficult, and it doesn't have to be pricey, just enjoyable. That's, so if you learn anything about me today, kiss, savor, enjoy, orgasmic, have I given you enough buzzwords about what life is about?
Yes.
I'm the ancestor your ancestors warned you about, the fun one.
Right. I love that. And joy, it comes from our heart, right? And it's our natural state, but there's so much stuff that gets piled on us in our lives. And I think sometimes people lose that and get away from it, when really life is so simple. And there are so many simple pleasures that we can savor.
Exactly.
So much. In any moment, there's always something.
Exactly. Every moment, when we experience it. For example, I heard the dog barking in the background. Most people would be like, oh my God, that poor dog, stop it already. And it's like, maybe he's like, woohoo, woohoo, I'm enjoying my life too. Somebody's going to get me a cookie. I mean, act like your inner child,
Mhm.
have fun. My inner child is always going, okay, what are we going to do now? I went to celebrating the whole month of May, because I'm a May baby. Let's see what yours is. About when I turned about 35, started celebrating the whole month. And people go, why? You want presents? I go, it's not about presents. I'm celebrating not only for me, but for friends of mine and family that passed already. They didn't get to be where I'm at. I have several friends, that are my age that are gone. And I think about them. And so in my birthday month, I'm sitting there going, oh yeah, honey, let's go on a motorcycle ride. I want to remember my friend Patricia White. Honey, let's go have, and I don't drink coffee, but he does. I'm like, let's go have a coffee for my friend Lynn. So I'm always, wanting to remember those special moments, with people, like with my dad. Honey, let's go have some, Hawaiian food. Think about my dad that I don't have to cook because there's a few restaurants here, stuff like that. Let's go to the racetrack. Dad loved racing the horses, but savor, taste, feel, enjoy, touch,
You said, go ahead.
touch, let yourself feel and touch. And when you do that, the more you exude, because we all have that 3 feet of personal space, the more you send out, nothing negative is going to pop in because it's going to be afraid to jump in there. It's like, whoo, that's too much positivity for me. I'll stay away. And then you'll discover the ones that are negative are going to drop off, but you're going to get a few of them energy vampires. Full moon, push, release, let them go.
Yes.
So
Love that. You said your birthday's in May, so are you a Taurus?
I am.
Me too. And I love that you're all about savoring and the senses, because that's just what Taurus is all about. So,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
When they ask me stuff like, tell me what sign you are, and I'm like, you don't want me in the china cabinet, I'm that person because I am. I'm going to touch, I want to feel, I'm going to taste, and I have fun that way. Let me tell you I know we're almost out of time, but let me just share this story with you real quick. I used to work for an airline, and one of my girlfriends and I were going to Hawaii for the weekend, and we're running because they changed the gate on us. When you fly on buddy passes, you're at the mercy of the airline. So you go from one gate to another like a crazy person. So we're running from one gate to the next gate. And here in the DFW airport, there's a lot of Polynesians. And so we're taught, it's ingrained in us, in our DNA, to acknowledge each other. So I'm going through the airport carrying my little carry-on, hustling, and I'm not a small girl, I'm kind of heavy. And so I'm sitting here hustling, and I'm and I see somebody, that I know is Polynesian. They could be Hawaiian, Samoan, Tongan, Fijian, Maori, but we're taught, and we know in our DNA that, hey, that's family. You got to recognize it. So I'm tossing my head back, hey, hi, just smiling, something, some kind of acknowledgement. So we get to our gate and we sit and wait because the flight hasn't left yet. And my friend goes, hey, a lot of people that work here at the airport. And I was like, huh, what are you talking about? And she says, well, all those people you were passing by, I was watching you flip in your head and you say hi or something, or with your eyes or whatever. And I was like, no, girl, we're Polynesian. Somehow or another, them people related to me. I got to say hi. Otherwise my ancestors are going to come knock me. And she's like, no way. And I go, yeah, but that changed her. She's a flight attendant for another airline now. And she goes, what you shared with me and what you taught me that day was, I can say hi to people. It's not going to hurt me. And it showed her how easy it is to open up and trust, because that's one thing I didn't talk about. But when you go into your na'au, into your inner guidance system, working with your heart and your communication, it teaches you trust, discernment, acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
So kiss it.
Yeah, love it. Thank you so much, Crystal. And I know you're on Facebook, but is there any other way that people can connect with you if they want to learn more about you and your work or connect with you in some way? Is Facebook the best, or what else do they?
No, actually, Facebook's not necessarily the best. The best at the moment is going to be, I let me, I know my website is not up. It'll be up, I think at the end of the week. My web designer's still having a couple of issues. But the website is Aloha Crystal, ALOHA Crystal, CRYSTAL, just like the stones, and .com. And then the email would be crystal at Aloha Crystal. So if it shouldn't bounce, but it might, just because we're still under some website development. I gave them a challenge, and there's a glitch in my challenge, so I might have to change the view on the challenge. So,
Okay.
But, yeah.
Well, amazing. And I didn't realize that aloha meant love. And so I love that it's like a greeting and a goodbye and everything, and it actually means love.
Oh yeah, it's a lot deeper. It's one of the things that I do teach with my clients. It's a part of an oming lesson that is about the best way I can describe it in breaking down the syllables and running it through your communication, and so there's a lot more deeper meaning about aloha, but the best one, love, because without love, how did that song go? All the world needs now is love, sweet love.
Yes. Yes, I feel it.
Yeah.
Well, aloha.
And I am on Facebook, so and Twitter, Aloha Crystal at Twitter. So
Amazing. Thank you so much. And thank you to our viewers. And from my heart to yours, I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day and enjoy the full moon. Savor it, right? Kiss it.
All right. Aloha, savor. Yeah, it's gorgeous out there. Aloha.